So I went from this very clean workspace to all of this, and we're gonna work towards getting to this. Let's get into it.
Who's hungry? Raise your paws.
Alright, so finding the time to properly fuel your body as you are getting deeper and deeper into your endurance training can be rather difficult. And so that's why meal prepping is going to be rather important. Now, meal prepping tends to have a bad reputation. You think grilled chicken, steamed broccoli, rice for several days a week. For me, I find that extremely boring and really unappealing. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how you could take 1 to 2 sessions a week, build some really delicious dishes that go from breakfast to snack to lunch to dinner, and you could be able to put different ingredients into those dishes to really create something unique and different every single time. In culinary school, one of our slogans was food is life, and I've honestly been cooking like that, but more importantly, eating like that for well over a decade. Okay, so starting off with 2 rules that you want to live by when it comes to meal prepping, and ideally you hit both at the same time, but it's okay just to hit one. One's going to be making sure that you're using dishes or ingredients that may take a little bit more time to cook, and also may take a little bit of time to rest. What I mean by that, you want to think of braised meats or overnight oats or soup, things that are okay being leftovers and they taste just as good a few days afterwards. And then the second one, and once again, if you hit both, brilliant. But the second one is going to be ensuring that you're using ingredients that are exciting and it can be added to different types of flavor affinities. And we'll get into that in this book in just a second. But when you're looking at ingredients like grilled chicken, you can chop it up really easily and make that into a chicken salad one day. You can also put that on a wrap, or you can put it on a sandwich. You could also just chop up chicken and put it into stir-fried rice throughout the week. And so you want to use ingredients that tend to be something that you can add different flavors to later on. Alright, so 2 things you do want to avoid when you are looking at meal prepping, and one we actually spoke about a little bit earlier, but we'll get a little bit more into it now, is that you don't want to prep out a meal and expect that you're going to have it 3 or 4 days in a row, and it's going to be exactly the same thing. That kind of goes back to the grilled chicken, steamed broccoli, and rice approach. And even the people who love leftovers, after 2 or 3 days, your palate gets bored and it's just not exciting to eat anymore. And number 2, don't prep things because you think it's going to be healthy and something you're going to want to eat if you're not the type of person who typically eats that already. And so what I mean by that is that, raw crudité, people really enjoy that sometimes. Chopped carrots and celery and cucumbers. You can have different dips with it and it can be fun. But I don't really love raw vegetables. And so if I prep that out for 3 or 4 days and I expect myself to eat that, all those ingredients are going to go bad because I just don't want to eat it. Alright, so I'm also not a recipe guy. I know that following some recipes is important for some, especially if you're not familiar with some basic cooking techniques, but also remember that you don't have to follow recipes to the T. And what's also important is that when you're looking at a recipe, it's okay to supplement different ingredients for what your palate likes the most. And so one book I highly recommend that I've been using since day one of culinary school is called The Flavor Bible. And this book is amazing because it's not a recipe book. It's more about what flavors go with what and how you can build flavor affinities to be something that's really palatable and something you really enjoy. And so for instance, if you look up an ingredient such as chicken, you'll see that in alphabetical order, allspice goes well with it, almonds and anise, different ingredients that are highlighted in bold like bay leaf and butter and carrots are all really amazing with chicken. And if that seems like overly complicated, you can go towards the end of the of that ingredient list and they have flavor affinities. And what's really fun about this is that you can see that chicken and andouille sausage and red beans and rice all together makes a really delicious meal, or just chicken, garlic, and lemon. So you can get really creative with what you're meal prepping, and once again, grill the chicken, and then you can build upon those flavor affinities later. So a lot of fun in this book, highly recommend it. So I went from this very clean workspace to all of this, and we're gonna work towards getting to this. Let's get into it. Alright, so first up, we're going to do braised pork butt. Now, braised pork butt, what's really great about this is that we can put it into fried rice later, we can put it into ramen, we're going to go ahead and maybe even put it into some wraps or just have it by itself. And so what's also great about it is that about 3 to 4 ounces of this, cooked obviously, is going to be about 20 to 23 grams of protein. So you're going to get some really great fat content in there, and you're going to have the type of protein that you need to continue to fuel forward. Also, lots of salt and pepper. Do not skimp on the seasoning. It's gonna cook down anyways, and so you wanna make sure this is super flavorful, and you don't have to salt and pepper just in the beginning. You wanna salt and pepper or season throughout the cooking time. And so I'm gonna get this seared off really nicely. All right, so here I have some peppers that I used from homemade mole a few months ago.
Not this mole.
And you definitely don't need to put this into your pulled pork, but I know this is going to create some really amazing flavors. Smoky, a little bit of heat, and it's going to go a long way with different types of cuisines. I know that peppers tend to be more like a Mexican or Latino cuisine, but it's still going to be delicious in some ramen or fried rice, anything of that sort. All right, so as the pork butt is searing right now, what I'm going to do is just get all my broth and any sort of liquid that needs to go into the crock pot to get it heated up. Don't overthink this. It just basically needs to almost cover the protein. Also, whenever you're braising any sort of meat, you're going to want to add some sort of a tomato product. Tomato is going to add a little bit of sweetness and some fresh acidity to your dish, and as well as some color and caramelization a little bit later as it's done cooking. All right, so one pro tip before I put this into the pot and have it simmer for about 6 to 8 hours on low is that cast irons, you'll see that this has been really used. Do not use water or soap on your cast iron, because every time you cook on your cast iron, you are actually seasoning it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in, I'm just going to dry this out once it's done cooling with some paper towel, and all the flavor of this pork and the caramelization is going to sink right into that cast iron. I once caught my father-in-law scrubbing my cast iron with water and soap, and we didn't speak for about a week, so don't be that person. All right, so that's going to be in the crock pot for about 6 to 8 hours on low. Once it's done, we'll go ahead and shred it and get that all ready for all the meals that I'll have planned later on in the week. I really love having some sort of tortillas that I could do some wraps later on, or some quesadillas. If you don't want to do tortillas, I really like this butter lettuce also is really great to make some wraps. And then I'll have some ramen throughout the week with it. And then I am kind of lazy with rice. You could definitely go ahead and make your own rice, but I find these extremely convenient. So use microwave for 90 seconds, and I'll actually go ahead and fry them in a little bit of ghee, and it gets super crunchy, and I'll go ahead and toss the pork in there as well. Alright, so for the next one here, this is going to be really simple. I'm just going to go ahead and marinate some chicken overnight and go ahead and grill that in the morning. I'm just going to use a really simple dressing. Use whatever you like. If you like ranch or Caesar or balsamic. This one here is just a garlic apple cider vinegar. I think with the apple cider, it's going to add a nice little tanginess. But what's important is that this flavor won't be overwhelming for any other dishes I might want to have with this grilled chicken. And so, as I mentioned earlier in this this video, you can go ahead and have the grilled chicken as is. About 3 to 4 ounces of grilled chicken, it equates to about 30 to 35 grams of protein. And obviously it's more of a lean meat, and so also very good for you. You could put this also in for some fried rice, a salad, a wrap, whatever you like. I'm also probably going to cook off a little bit of quinoa. Quinoa is really great for a source of protein as well. One serving about 5 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber. This will probably last in the fridge maybe 3 to 4 days. It's cooked quinoa, and that will be delicious with this with some roasted veggies. Alright, so next up we're going to talk about overnight oats. I'm also going to add a little bit of chia seed and hemp seed in there as well. Chia and hemp are a really great source of protein. And your typical ratio is going to be a 1-to-1. And so if you're using 1 cup of oats, you're going to use about 1 cup of liquid of your choosing. Today I'm going to use coconut milk. I really like alternative milk, and this one's really cost effective at Costco if you can find it. But any sort of milk is totally fine. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid because the chia and the hemp is going to absorb some of that liquid. But err on the side of caution. You could always add more later, but you can't take it away. So if you want to play it safe, and just do the 1 cup of liquid to 1 cup of oats, and then add a little bit of liquid when you're going to consume it in the morning, totally fine. And I'm going to make a pretty large base of dried ingredients in this, and I'm going to portion it evenly in all 12 of these mason jars. But the trick though to make sure that they stay fresh longer throughout the week is that I'm not going to eat 12 servings of overnight oats in 4 days, and so I'm going to do 4 or 5 of them and add the liquid and make sure that they're ready for the morning. But then the other ones are just kind of dry ingredients, and so when I'm ready to enjoy them later on in the week, I'll add the liquid later on. Alright, so before we go ahead and portion these into the mason jars, we have about 10 cups of oats, 12 tablespoons of hemp, and 12 tablespoons of chia. I also had about 3 tablespoons of cinnamon and about a teaspoon of salt. Salt's a really great electrolyte, and I'll go ahead and link a video above here where I talk about how that's really beneficial for endurance athletes. And you're looking at about maybe 10 to 12 grams of protein per serving once it's all said and done. That's of course depending on the type of milk that you're using. Coconut milk doesn't have a lot of protein in it. If you want, you can go ahead and add, I really like collagen for a source of protein because it's not flavored. And so this is Vital Proteins. We just kind of put it in a jar like this, and that'll add a lot more protein to the overnight oats itself. Okay, so now we have all of our dry ingredients in the jars. We only have the 10 servings, so I don't need all the leftover jars. As mentioned earlier, I'm going to do about 4 or 5 with the milk itself. When you're adding the liquid, I'm going to also add my sweetener. In this case, I'm going to use some maple syrup. I'm not going to use a ton. Once again, you can add more later. You cannot take out. That's a really important fact for any sort of cooking. I'm also going to add a little bit of MCT oil. This is kind of like just more like a fancy refined coconut oil. You don't have to add this. Ghee is also a really great substitute too. That won't actually mix that well though. So if you have this, you can toast different nuts. To start off the week, I'm going to make sure I have a handful of toasted walnuts to add on the top. I'll put some bananas on there. I have some frozen blueberries. So you really can add whatever you like on there. Different spices as well, like turmeric and black pepper. A little bit of pumpkin spice if you have that from the holidays. Really. And that's it. Alright, so in this portion of the video, it's going to be on the shorter side. I'm just going to talk about some of my favorite smoothie hacks. I tend to always get like fresh avocados or fresh bananas for the week, but when they do get a little bit overripe, I go ahead and make sure I cut them up and get them prepped out for smoothies, and I just put them in the freezer, and they'll be in there for however long it takes to go ahead and use them. You'll see here I have some old avocados that I chopped up probably about a few weeks ago, and they're still perfectly great, and they're going to add a really beautiful consistency to your smoothies, like very creamy, so I highly recommend that. I always get some frozen fruits such as blueberries or strawberries. I also have some fun dragon fruit and passion fruit with a little bit of mango in there as well. I'll add spinach, some collagen. I am rather distracted right now. You can see what's happening in the back of this camera. It's making it very challenging to focus, so I apologize. And I also add MCT oil, collagen peptides, cinnamon, turmeric, black pepper, all sorts of stuff to my smoothies. So mix it up, keep it fresh. If you want to actually have enough freezer space to portion out your smoothies, totally fine. We have a pretty small one, and so I'll have these all in bags and put them together in the morning. But the prep that I do get done is anything that is overly ripe. Just make sure you go ahead and freeze it, and it's good to go. Alright, so next up we're going to talk about some eggs. I really like scrambled eggs or sunny side eggs in the morning on toast, but sometimes I just don't have time for that because I'm getting right out of my run, showering, getting ready to a meeting. So behind me I'm going to go ahead and boil some water and boil off 12 to 14 eggs. And I'm not going to do hard boiled, I'm going to do more medium boiled. So the yolk is a little bit soft in the middle. The texture is a little bit more palatable. This can be really great to have with some olive oil, some lemon zest, salt and pepper in the morning. You could also go ahead and have them for some ramen later on with the shredded pork that we're going to do later. I'm also going to marinate some with some soy sauce, ponzu, and a chili oil. And that's going to be a really nice flavor because the eggs will soak up anything that it's being marinated in. And that's going to be phenomenal with some white rice and kimchi. So that's a great snack or a lunch or even a light dinner. As far as the recipe for boiling the eggs, if you go onto the internet, you're going to find a lot of different recipes. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil some water, put the eggs in, go ahead and lower the temperature so it's just simmering, and do that for about 7 minutes, and then transfer that right to an ice bath, and that should give me a really nice medium consistency. Fingers crossed. All right, just took them out. We're going to let them chill for about 2 to 3 minutes. We'll go ahead and peel them, get them in the marinade, and we'll be good to go. Alright, yesterday we went ahead and prepped all of this, and today we're going to talk about exactly what variations you can enjoy throughout the week. That being said, I mentioned earlier that I am not much of a recipe guy, but I went ahead and built out these recipes for you. Go ahead and click the link below in the description, and you can go ahead and get those absolutely free, and I really hope that you enjoy these recipes. Alright, so going first into the overnight oats, you will notice that there are a few things probably missing. I woke up this morning, I was already hungry. When you're into endurance training, you're always going to be hungry. That's pretty much just the name of the game. But with the overnight oats, we went ahead and did blueberries and lemon zest, really, really tasty. And then here are a few other variations that we're going to enjoy throughout this week. Roll that B-roll. Okay, next up we have our eggs. I did have a few today, but that being said, these are really beautifully medium cooked eggs, and we'll have these throughout the week. I'll go ahead and show you those variations in just a second. And then we also did some really fun marinade. This is pretty trendy right now, but it's essentially soy sauce, ponzu. I did a little bit of chili oil, and these have been marinating overnight. I'm going to be super excited to eat these for a light snack or a lunch with some white rice or quinoa and some kimchi. Okay, next up, we've got our grilled chicken. I went ahead and grilled this up this morning. Really excited about this to have in some salads and sandwiches and some stir fry as well. I also went ahead and chopped some up for chicken salad, just a little bit of mayonnaise, celery, thyme, and once again, I really like chilies, so I went ahead and used some of the Momofuku chili paste. I'll go ahead and link that below if you want to check it out. Really tasty stuff. I'll have this on wraps and English muffins throughout the week, but we'll roll the B-roll right now and we'll show you all the variations that we had throughout the week. Okay, next up we got our pulled pork. Went ahead and took this out of the crock pot last night, shredded it, cooled it, put it in the fridge, and then this is going to be rehydrated with some of the leftover liquid that I blended as well. I won't always use this. Sometimes I'll just use chicken stock depending on what type of flavor I want to have. This is a lot of chilies and tomatoes. It's not really that spicy, but it does have a bit more like a kick and smokiness to it. And so I'll probably use this for like quesadillas or tacos throughout the week. And then when it comes to like the ramen, I'll go ahead and just heat this up with a little bit of chicken stock and oil. Definitely continue to salt and pepper your food. This isn't overly salty right now, so it could definitely use a little bit of seasoning, but it's super tender. So, and then lastly here we have our quinoa, and yeah, once again, this is going to be really just great to have in the fridge for 3 to 4 days. It'll last pretty good amount of time, and it'll be really good with the eggs, the chicken, the pork, really anything outside of the overnight oats. All right, I hope you're as hungry as I am. I'm already thinking about my second lunch.
Who's hungry? Raise your paws.
Please go ahead and take a look at that link below. You'll be able to check out all these recipes and variations that you can try out throughout your week. Feel free to comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how these recipes went and if you want to see any more of these in the near future. I'll see you soon.